Hello everyone, I am GG and this is my full build guide video for the Forbidden Rite Selfcast Occultist build in the 3.17 archnemesis League. Now, if you saw my presentation video, you should know what kind of gameplay to expect from it, and if not, a link to this video will appear now on top of your screen. So let's get started with the build guide. First, we will review and talk about the different items that you may want. In a second time, we will review the gems and links. And lastly, we will take a look at the passive skill tree and jewels. So let's start with the gear. First, the weapon that you want will be a Void Battery. You want this 2 times. It is, with no contest, the best weapon for this build. It gives you an extra power charge, which will synergize with the Amulet to give you an extra frenzy charge as well. It gives you a ton of increased damage from the power charges as well, and cast speed and everything that you need. You can also enchant it with Harvest whenever you get the chance for increased area of effect per quality. Now for the amulet, you want a badge of the Brotherhood. This is with no contest the best item of this build and it is pretty cheap. You want to anoint infused on it for an extra power charge. And what this item does is that it allows you to get your maximum frenzy charges equal to your maximum power charges. So since we stack a bunch of power charge, then we have a bunch of frenzy charge, and this gives us a ton of cast speed, and this is what will make the build feel very good to play. It also gives you a ton of movement speed with the elusive effect. For the body armor, we want an astral plate with Redeemer and Hunter influence. This is a core part of our build. We cannot play without this item because it gives us chance to gain a frenzy charge on hit, which will allow us to generate frenzy charge even on boss fights. Then you want to awaken this with spell critical strike chance. Those mods can be elevated or not, this is depending on your budget. And then for the prefixes, if you are playing Profane Bloom, you can apply an additional curse to be able to have Despair as well as Assassin's Mark or Warlord's Mark. For the boots, we want a pair of 2-tone boots to help with the resistances, and most importantly, we need the Labyrinth enchantment, 18% reduced mana cost of skills if you have been hit recently. This will help a ton with your mana issues. Then for the suffixes, we want to awaken Tailwind with Onslaught. Again, depending on your budget, you can elevate this or not. And then as your prefixes, you will need chance to gain Elusive on Critical Strike. This is what will allow you to gain Elusive and synergize with the Badge of the Brotherhood to get a ton of movement speed. For the gloves, we want a pair of Hands of the High Templar, with the most important implicit being Curse enemies with Despair on hit. And then in addition to that, you can try to get some other mods like Spell Critical Strike Chance, Maximum Life, Level of Socketed Gems, this will be nice for your Enlighten, Level of Socketed Aura Gems or Level of Socketed AoE Gems or even Cast Speed. They will also give you a bunch of Maximum Life and Fire and Lightning Rays, which will help us with capping our resistances. For the helmet, we want a Royal Burgonet with Hunter influence as well as Warlord influence. And then for the enchantment, you have a few solutions depending on your liking or your needs. So it can be for the best DPS option, Forbidden Rite fires an additional projectile. If you want more speed, you can get increased effect of Berserk. And if you have problem with mana reservation, you can get some mana reservation efficiency nodes. Then for your prefixes, you want, most importantly, 1 maximum power charge. This is a Warlord mod. And for the suffixes, you want nearby enemies have -9 or 12, depending if you elevate it or not, to chaos resistance. For your rings, you want 2 Vermilion rings with Shaper influence to be able to get the mod life gain for each enemy hit by your spells. Then you will also need an open prefix to craft non-channeling skills have -7 to total mana cost. This will help again a lot with mana issues. And for the suffixes, this is a good place to solve all of your resistances issues as well as your attributes issues, because this build might need some dex, strength or even intelligence. For the belt, if you choose to play with a rare one, then the best option is a Stygian Vise with Hunter influence. This will allow you to get an Abyssal Jewel, and then for the prefixes you can get a ton of life with maximum life and increased maximum life. And for the last one, you can try to get chaos damage or chance to gain a flask charge when you deal a critical strike. And then again, it is a very good spot to fill up your resistances need or your attributes need. For the flasks, there are in my opinion 4 of them that you always want to keep, and those are the Dying Sun, the Quicksilver Flask, the Granite Flask, and the Diamond Flask. Then for the last one I went with a Basalt for more armor, but if you want you can replace this with a Life Flask if you feel the need, or a Phasing Flask if you like it, or even a Bottled Faith for more damage. Then for the suffixes I went for increased armor, immunity to corrupted blood and bleeding, reduced effect of curses on you, and increased critical strike chance during flask effect. For the prefixes I have tried a few different ones, like chance to gain a flask charge when you deal a critical strike, but the best result I got is with this mod, gain 7 charges when you are hit by an enemy. As you will tank a ton of hits with this build, all of your flasks will fill up very quickly. Alright, so that's it for the gear. Let's now move on to the part 2, which is gems and links. So your body armor is the main DPS setup, so you want 4 blue sockets and 2 green sockets. And in those you want Forbidden Rite, then Spell Echo, if you can try to get the Awakened one, then Power Charge on Critical Strike support, Increased Critical Damage support, Awakened Void Manipulation or the normal version if you cannot get the Awakened one, and the last one is Greater Multiple Projectiles, and for this one it is very important that you get the Anomalous version, as it will have 20% reduced mana cost. It is very important for this build or you will have big mana problems. For your gloves you want 3 blue sockets and 1 red socket, and this is where you will put your aura skills. So you want an Enlighten level 3 or 4 depending on your budget, and if you can try to get the +1 level of socketed gems on your Hands of the High Templar, this will help a lot with mana reservation. Then you want Zealotry. If you can try to get an Anomalous version, this will give you a bit of more DPS. Then you want Purity of Elements, and if you can get the Anomalous version again, it will give you a bit more resistances. And for the last one we want Determination. On your helmet you want 2 blue sockets, 1 red socket and 1 green socket. This is your first cast when damage taken setup, so you want level 1 cast when damage taken support, level 1 ball lightning, level 1 arcansure support, and level 1 greater multiple projectile support. Again here you can try to get an anomalous version to help a bit with the mana, but it is really not mandatory here. For your boots you want 2 red socket, 1 green socket and 1 blue socket. This is your second cast when damage taken setup, so you want cast when damage taken support level 1. Again you can try to get the divergent version. Then you want onslaught support. If you get the anomalous version it will give you a bit more extra duration on onslaught. Then you want molten shell. You can level this up to level 10 maximum, and if you get the anomalous version you will get a bit more of shield. And the last one is a level 1 purifying flame, and if you get the divergent version your consecutive ground will apply more damage taken to enemies. For the first weapon we want 2 red sockets and 1 white socket if possible, and in those we will have Defiance Banner. You can try to get an anomalous version if you can, but it is very expensive right now. Then you want a cast when damage taken support level 1, and the last one in the white socket you can get Warlord's Mark. The divergent version is necessary if you want to use Berserk and have the rage generation, and then you can swap it for bosses with Assassin's Mark and the anomalous version. On your second weapon you want 2 red socket and 1 blue socket. The first one is Vitality level 1, but if you have enough mana you can try to level this a little bit more for some extra life regen. Then you want Berserk. This is what will give you a ton of movement speed in maps, and if possible try to get the divergent version, it will give you a bit more spell damage. And the last one is Flame Dash. Let's now take a look at the passive skill tree, and most importantly all of the jewels that you will need. So the first one is a Watcher's Eye, and it has the mod life gain for each enemy hit while affected by vitality. This is the most important mod and you will want it on all of your Watcher's Eye. Then as a second mod you can want some Zealotry mod for more damage, or some Determination mod for some more defenses, or even some Chaos Resistance with Purity of Elements. Then moving on we have a large cluster. This is the first one. We have 2 of the same. So we have one here and another one down there. On this large cluster, you want this specific combination of 3 mods, which are Dark Ideation, Unholy Grace, and Unwaveringly Evil. You really want those 3 nodes because this is what will allow you to get Unholy Grace in a good spot. If you get a different combination of mods, then your Unholy Grace will end up on the top side of the jewel, and then you will have to spend 2 extra points to get it. Then we have a first small cluster jewel, which is Mana Reservation. Depending on the state of your mana, you might not need this one, but if you do need one, you can just get one like this with Mana Reservation and then a big notable for 50% reservation. Then we have a medium cluster jewel. I advise you to get one of those with Towering Threat and Vast Power. It will give you a bunch of life as well as a ton of AoE per power charge. And then we have a second small cluster, and this one is Born of Chaos, which is a chaos resistance small notable, and it will give you 3% to maximum chaos resistance. This is what will allow you to get above 80% chaos resistance. Then moving down, we have our first rare jewel. So all of the rare jewels are pretty much the same. You are looking for maximum life, reduce mana cost of skills, and then whatever you can find, some damage mod like crit multi, or some cast speed, or even spell damage or stuff like this. Then we have our second large cluster, so it is the same as the first one. And then another small cluster, which is an armor one, and it gives you Enduring Composure. This is what will allow you to generate your endurance charges. So you can see gain 1 endurance charge every second if you have been hit recently, so you hit yourself with Forbidden Rite, so you always generate some endurance charges. Then if you have enough skill points, you can try to get a second Born of Chaos jewel if you want more chaos resistance, or just socket in another rare jewel. Then we have another jewel socket here. This one is a rare jewel again, but you can also use a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency. If you have a bit less budget early on, it will be very helpful for your mana issues, as it gives non-challenging skills have -9 to total mana cost of skills. Then moving on to the most important jewel of the build, which is the Glorious Vanity Timeless Jewel in the name of Xibaqua. This one will give you the Divine Flesh Keystone, which will give you +5% to maximum chaos resistance, as well as 50% of elemental damage taken as chaos, which is very nice against spell damage. And then this specific Glorious Vanity Jewel, it will transform all of the notables in the radius that you can see here to new random ones. So it is pretty annoying to find, but it is also very powerful. So you want to find in this area, especially here, or in this one or this one, some specific notables. The most important ones being Ritual of Shadows, which gives you 25% chance to inflict Wither on hit. And you can apply up to 15 Wither stacks, and this is half of the DPS of the build, so it is very, very important to have. Then you can try to find some extra ones with like Cult of Chaos that gives you +1 to maximum chaos resistance, that makes you a little bit more tankier. And this one is also very nice, Revitalizing Darkness, which gives you chaos damage leech, and it gives you an extra life regen. Now one last thing before we are done with the jewels. It is pretty nice if you can find with Harvest and the jewel implicits 1% of damage taken recouped as mana. This will help a ton with mana issues as well. I should have now covered the most important informations about this build, but if you want to know even more about it or see a lot more details, I invite you to check my full written build guide on the forum, or some of my other videos about crafting, for example. All of the links will be in the description. If you like this guide, please subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot for all of the work I have put into it. I hope that this video was helpful, and if you have any more questions, you can ask them in the comments below or on my forum post. And I wish you guys good luck with this build and to have fun. And I see you guys in another video.